My name is Bill Masoulis. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the director of the film you're about to watch. I'd just like to say thank you for coming, and thank you to ACMI for putting this on. It's always nice to have a cinema that's like a bit bigger for an initial screening. And I'd also like to thank the traditional owners of this land for somehow allowing us to live, work and play here after 250 years of abuse against them. My respects to the Wurundjeri elders and my love and solidarity with all Indigenous people. This film, My Darling in Stirling, is the first feature film I've made in Adelaide. That's better, yep. And I've basically made a whole bunch of films in Melbourne, where I was born, and including a number of features. And then in the 2010s, or teens I should say, I was in Greece and I made 2 features there. So this is the first one in Adelaide in more recent times, obviously. And as a film, I guess you all know it's a musical, and you know, kind of they call it sung through, meaning, you know, music and singing all the way throughout. And it's for me, it's always like, it's a bit of fun and something I've always wanted to do. But I think the thing that marks the film is a certain kind of, you know, innocence and openness and joy, and also melancholy that's in it. And I think these qualities aren't necessarily in a lot of films these days, apart from certain art films, of course. That's all I really want to say. At the end we'll have a Q&A, as you can see by the great director chairs there, and it'll be moderated by Philippa Hawker, who's a film writer, critic, for a long time now in Australia, and she was like the editor of cinema papers in the 90s, I think, and she's written for Sydney Morning Herald and a whole bunch of other things. She loves French cinema and is writing a book on Jean-Pierre Léaud, I think. Yeah, so that should be really fantastic. So enjoy the film. Thanks. Thanks everyone.
Yahoo!
Working, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Hey, well, congratulations, Bill, and it's great to see it on the big screen.
Yeah,
Must be a treat for you.
Yeah, it's a good, you know, image and sound in this cinema. Is that loud enough? It's not as loud as yours. It should be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We can project a bit. Yeah. Look, obviously you've acknowledged that Jacques Demy's Umbrellas of Cherbourg is an inspiration for you. But I wanted to talk about that, obviously, but I want to start with Stirling, which is sort of this quite ordinary place, but it's also got a bit of the fairy tale about it as well. Did you have Stirling, the place, in mind when you started out to write this film, or did that come later?
It did come later, because when I first had an inkling of doing a musical, actually I was like, you know, heading towards like a dark musical, you know, full of abuse and all these bizarre characters. And then I thought, oh well, yeah, that's pretty good. But then I thought, nah, I just want to do something, you know, kind of light and more positive. And sorry, I'm just distracted by Nino Canave's, Anna Canave's brother from the legendary film The Butler.
And of course Anna gets a shout out in the film, doesn't she?
Yeah, I show one of her novels.
Yes, yeah.
But going back to Stirling, yeah, basically, you know, I live in Adelaide with my wife, who's from Adelaide, so we decided to live there rather than here. And just discovering that Adelaide Hills area, you know, Stirling kind of attracted me because not just that there were a few cafes and bookstores, but there's all these kind of laneways and, you know, kind of magical spots. And there was one key scene we didn't get to film of people coming out of like spots and whatever. But it genuinely, it actually has got an alternative vibe, Stirling. And it's kind of a particular demographic of rich people who are alternative, you know, like the whole alternative schools kind of scene, and then, you know, they're intellectuals and they're artists, and but you know, it's the autumnal leaves that also are a big feature of it, obviously, and it's a tourist attraction as well.
Oh, you certainly made the most of the autumn aspect of it, no question about that. So, yeah, Jacques Demy's Umbrellas of Cherbourg, an influence, partly, I guess, because of, and maybe we can talk about that first, but the fact that it's, you know, it's sung through, that it's a recitative, that basically all the dialogue is sung, and so that was something that you wanted to do straight right from the word go, didn't you?
Yes, definitely. That it wasn't going to be a, you know, song and dance spectacular, and I did want to set it in the quotidian, and pretty much, I don't know, maybe it's wearing my cinephile heart on my sleeve a bit by, you know, paying homage to certain films in my career. I've nodded to Bresson and Godard and all these other people, and just more recently I've been getting into Demy, and I looked through all of his work like a few years ago. And there was also a Greek film director called Yannis Stalianidis who, because I was living in Greece for a while, I soaked in his musical films from the 60s and 70s, and he's got some similar elements to Demy. And but yeah, I definitely wanted, I mean, it's a little bit of a cliche too, that, you know, setting something in the everyday, but when you've got no budget, this is the thing, the limitation of not having any money, you know, you basically make the most of that. So if I had money, I don't know what I would have done. I would have done the Young Girls of Rochefort, like Demy did. When he didn't have money, he made the Umbrellas of Cherbourg. So,
well, you also made use of something, this free music archive. Would you have been able to make the film without that? And tell us a little bit about how that works, because that's where you got the tracks from, wasn't it?
Yeah, free music archive. Yeah, look, initially I thought, yeah, look, I'll contact musicians I know and create a soundtrack, and then, you know, over the top of that, you know, lay vocals and you know, that kind of process. But almost for a bit of a joke, I started listening to Free Music Archive, and the more I listened, the more I thought, hang on, some of these tracks here, they're actually quite resonant and for my purposes as well. So I thought, why not? I'll go for it. It's a quicker way and a cheaper way to make a soundtrack.
I mean, at the end it says that they haven't, what is it, what's the phrase, that they haven't endorsed the use in that way. I mean, do the people who contribute these tracks, do they know what becomes of them? Do they know about the film?
They do if I contact them, and so far I haven't, but I do plan to,
yeah.
Just in case one of them flips and for some reason tries to sue me. But I don't think so, because it's actually, everything is completely legal here, what I've done, and just putting those kind of credits up. So basically there are some tracks on Free Music Archive where not only can you use them royalty free and you can monetize them, you can also change them about. You can shorten them, you can add vocals to them like I did. So it's all completely above board, completely legal. To me, I mean, a few people that have seen the film have poo-pooed it, the whole process, you know, thinking it's a bit of a joke. But for me, it's more like, hey, in this kind of age of, you know, sampling and remixing, you know, what's the problem here, guys? It's like...
It's certainly there, available for use, isn't it? I mean, that's the whole,
absolutely.
The whole point of it.
And like the main kind of romantic theme that's in the film that repeats at the end there. So one viewer that was watching it in Adelaide, they actually have remembered and that another person, a singer, has used the same music, but with a kind of different melody, and he's actually not used the exact music, but he's recorded the music again himself, and that is from that same time that track was released. So other people do use And it'll be incredible if one day I see a film and some of the same music tracks will be in there, but it is possible.
And so you're the song designer, that's how you put it. I mean, you wrote the lyrics and the melodies. So,
Yeah.
so basically what you had to do is then sort of create the whole thing, and then I gather you got singers in to sing it. So you sort of had this whole kind
Yeah.
of template for a film before you started casting or shooting.
Yes.
I mean, it was all there. And so you sort of had to audition. Did you? The singers, I mean, there's a sort of double craze because you've got the singers, two of whom in the smaller roles also perform. But that must have been I mean, how do you cast voices before you had your actors? That must have been an intriguing thing to do.
Well, yeah, I cast the voices, and there was a casting process where I saw a number of different singers, and they had to fit for me, their voices. And, not paying people, and of course contracting them and all that, but not paying them, you're pretty limited in how many people will step forward. But luckily for me, I got all the right people I needed to record their vocals. And I just recorded their vocals at my place. I bought a little bit of sound recording equipment. It only cost me $500-600, nothing spectacular. And then from there, and I knew a couple of the singers could probably play their roles. In fact, 3 or 4 of them could, because they were actors as well. But in the end, it turned out to be 2 of them were suitable as actors to play against their own voices.
And then you turned around and had to find your cast.
Had to find the actors.
Yeah. I must say with Amelie Dunda, I mean, she's perfect, isn't she, as Emma?
Oh, I think so. For me, she's got this double combination of innocence and intelligence. And I look at her face and I think, yeah, she's just like an innocent girl. But then, she obviously has great acting chops, and she looks like she's got great expressions on her face. And there's this extra quality to her that I think suits the role very well.
Well, particularly when she's, you do sort of use her expressions a lot. I mean, when she's walking through the mall, and I mean, obviously there are other things you do, like when she looks like a ghost after she's all that's obviously other things you do as well. But then at the end, there's a sense of resolve about her too. Which, and again, that's, I mean, there are various ways you can make that happen, but I feel her expressiveness is a big part of it.
Yeah, that last shot of the film, basically the close-up, I like to call it the Ackerman close-up of the character walking into the distance and into the future, and resolving certain things and basically taking control of herself and her destiny in a way.
So it must be, I mean, for actors to because they're quite, filming it must, I mean, you're an experienced filmmaker, obviously, this is what, your 11th feature? Yeah. But it's a very particular thing that you are asking your actors to do, which is they're lip syncing, but they have to look, quite natural in what they do at the same time. Did you have to did you test that in auditions to sort of see whether they could handle it, or was it
I did.
as difficult as it's, or challenging as it sounds?
I did test it. The postie, who's a singer, professional singer and an actor anyway, the actor playing the postie, ironically, he was the one that has struggled a little bit, but in the end, it's amazing what editing can do. You cover a scene from different angles, and they didn't always get the lip syncing right, but
you could always cut to.
I could cut to another shot, and which is great. Again, it's like that limitation maybe has pushed me to do the editing in a way that we cut to the listener. In cinema, like Roma does quite a bit. You can show the listener. Why not? You don't have to always show the person talking.
I guess the other thing that you didn't have to worry about sound.
Yes.
So that must have been a huge bonus for certain.
It was, but we did have the camera's inbuilt microphone turned on, because it then becomes like a guide track in the editing.
Yeah. And a certain amount of guerrilla work, particularly with buses?
Yeah, the buses were good fun to work, but one time because there's no kind of permits. We had insurances in place, that was no problem, but no permits, and we had a couple of different types of bus experiences. One of them was a bit awkward, where there was a guy up the front, half drunk, who his first comment when we came on, he said, "Nice camera and gimbal." And we thought, oh yeah, he knows about technical things like a gimbal. And then we started filming, and he starts saying to us, "You better not film me." And he was getting a bit angry, but and then when we went off the bus driver said to us, "Don't ever do that again. Never come on a bus again." But then there was another bus when we walked off, the bus driver, said, "Do you want to do another take?" So you get different things, but yeah, everything like filming on the streets is, you just basically do it. Otherwise, you're bogged down in red tape, basically.
You weren't able really to improvise though, while you were shooting, were you very much? I mean, you were very much...
In terms of the limitations of following the lyrics, following the voice, this is true. And so actors had to, quell their own rhythms, their own mannerisms to fit the rhythm of the music in a way.
And were they ready for that, or they discovered it soon enough?
They were, and a couple of them, discovered it as we were filming. But a lot of it was just like learning the lyrics and the phrasing and all that kind of thing. Occasionally they had trouble, but that's okay.
I mean, just to go back to Jacques Demy, I mean, one of the things, the themes, I guess, that you see through this is that combination of love and loss, that experience. But also, I mean, in a sense, I guess there's a sort of, by the end, it's a little bit different. I mean, I think the sense of sadness that you get at the end of The Umbrellas is a little bit different. I mean, you've taken it in a slightly different direction, but obviously that that mood was, I imagine, something that you wanted to take from Demy was the sort of the dailiness, but also the intensity that love provides, but also that love lost.
It's like a simpler version of Demy's film. I mean, Demy's got the background of the war, the Algerian war, and also, it's spaced over more time, so it kind of becomes more tragic, and there's a birth of a child and these kind of things. So it's much sharper and much deeper than my film. My film is set over 2-3 months, and it's kind of like first love and the emotions that go with that. But also
about three women who have different experiences of loss too. I mean, which is, and one of which we see, but the other two we kind of have to fill in. When we understand them a little bit, but we sort of have to fill in some gaps.
There's a couple of little bits of dialogue here and there that indicate what the other two have gone through roughly. Yeah.
With one thing I'm always interested in when books are used in films. That always interests me. I'm very keen on trying to work out what books are there and why. And obviously, when there are probably too many for me when you've got a bookshop in it. But did you? I mean, you must have done some. I mean, the Anna Canava book was obviously very deliberately there, and I presume there were other books. There's one that she uses, this book called Letting Go or something, which is a...
Oh yeah, just pop psychology.
Pop psychology,
Actually, it's not. It's actually like a really academic book, that one, based on a paper. But it's pop psychology.
Yeah. And were there any other... And there's a Tati poster there that I imagine...
Jacques Tati.
That was presumably a little... Was that added?
That was actually in the room at the time.
There you go.
It's,
serendipity.
And it's a funny room. It's like, blue coloured walls, but it's in that actual house where the girl and her mother and brother live. It's actually in that house. And we only see it that one time for that scene.
But it must have been irresistible to have it in there.
Well, yeah,
No?
just a little nod.
A little bit,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. And was there much else in the way of kind of set dressing or scene setting that you needed?
Oh, not really. In the girls' room, you know, we put a few posters on the wall. We put Anne Frank on the wall and a few things. Otherwise, no, not really. She's a lot of her like set dressing for her bedroom is, you know, it's quite girly in a way, but I guess some of those things she's had up for years. And when we were filming, she was only 19, so now she's still 21. And she's actually doing an acting course in LA, in Hollywood at the moment, at a very prestigious National Academy of Dramatic Art, or whatever it's called, and it's actually produced a whole bunch of known Hollywood actors. So she's there at the moment, so obviously her acting chops are, and if she wants to go down that path, fine. There's nothing wrong with it, you know, and hopefully she can make it work and actually become a known actress, and she's got, you know, great acting skill, and she's really got something to her as a person as well. So, yeah.
The other thing I thought, I mean, it doesn't have a credit, but the hairdressing was pretty good too. I like the way her hairstyles changed, and of course, her brothers were... were quite something.
Yeah, that's one of the great things you can do if you space out your shoot over like 3 months or 4 months. You can actually, things can physically change in terms of hair. And with the different music, just to go back to the music briefly before I throw the thing open to you to ask whatever questions you might have of Bill. With the musical style, did you find everything that you hoped, you know, the different, because you use different sorts of musical styles that you've drawn on, did you find everything that you wanted in what was available to you? Were there things that you would have loved to have done but couldn't? No, there weren't actually, and I mean, everything is always a road that you're going down, and you know, things can actually appear. Of course, a lot of things can appear, and then you can choose, and you can love them. And so I didn't feel any lack. Yeah, but in other films I've made, yeah, you do feel those kind of lacks. In one of the Greek features I made, I wish that I could have filmed certain scenes, and I tried to set them up, but they didn't happen. This time round, I filmed every song that was created. I didn't have to drop a single song, and I was happy.
And with the lyrics are interesting too, because as you say, there's a quotidian thing about them too, but you do want a certain amount of poetry as well. Did you find yourself was it difficult to find the right balance for yourself on the page and then sort of feel that it absolutely worked musically too?
Yeah, I'm not sure if I was really searching for poetry. In a way, I was searching for something when they talk about, you know, they're going to explore, and
I guess that's what I was thinking
a sublime new birth.
Yeah.
I've been mocked in Adelaide. Someone wrote a really long review on Letterboxd, and he hunted down the 3 words sublime new birth through Google, and he wrote in his review, "I've never heard this phrase before. You can't use a phrase like that." And that's Letterboxd for you. But basically, yeah, there's a little bit of, you know, as I was writing a lot of the everyday stuff, I realise, of course, it's banal and can be taken in a certain way, and that's fine. I didn't mind that. I wasn't shy in like excluding, you know, moments when people say yes or okay or anything like that. So.
But that's fine. I did like that you got the give it a burl. That's one. It's a one for the older members of the audience, I think. Anyway, look, we have some roving mics here, I believe. So
thanks a lot.
So would anyone like to ask a question of Bill? We've got some time.
Thanks, Bill. I just want to ask you, there's a scene I found really intriguing when the girl and the mother spoke in the third person.
When the mother says to the girl, she seems a little sad.
Yeah.
She's
that was
referring
really
to her
intriguing.
sister.
Oh,
The
okay.
mother's referring to her sister.
Okay.
I know maybe that's not crystal clear, and the actress Tina playing the mother, yeah, she thought that they were talking about, you know, that she was talking about her daughter. She seems a little sad and all that, but no, it's about the mother. It comes directly after a scene, about the aunt they're talking. It comes directly after a scene with the aunt. And yeah, sometimes the film is a little elliptical like that.
I found that really interesting, like even if that occurred.
There is another moment when the girl and her boyfriend start talking about hello there stranger, welcome to town and all this kind of thing. So that's a third person type thing.
I just found I found it really fascinating. And when you put the music onto the images, like, was there a lot more nuance that you identified that sort of came out just by the very fact of having that music on it?
You mean in the acting?
Oh,
or in
well, it's just sort of when you sat down and edited it, because I think there's so much nuance that comes out.
Absolutely. Cinema is a combination of image and sound, as Phil Brophy has taught us over the years. It's that combination of the two things. So it will give you something new that, you don't quite expect.
But you must have been surprised kind of endlessly.
Oh, yeah, always kind of delighted. But editing other films too. Editing is where a lot of the cinema magic is.
And then even when you plan something, it's sort of so disciplined in a way, there's still always those surprises, aren't there?
Yeah, absolutely. On all levels, the acting, the rhythms, the movements, and it's the first time I've really played with like a flowing camera as well, and on a gimbal. And the cinematographer Werner Luck, who came from Brazil, and wonderful cinematographer who can't get jobs, of course, because the industry's full of the boys and the, what do they call them, the team or whatever. But yeah, just working with a flowing camera was really fascinating too, with the editing.
And I had a question.
One here, there, up there. No, Dirk, we've got one up here. Sorry, Dirk.
Not sorry. Billy, sorry, you talked about directing the performers a bit, about, I think, getting the use of the rhythms of the lip syncing, but can you talk about directing the singers and how you approach that?
Okay, the singers, I did have my own guide track. I did, do the vocals myself as guide track, and I've got a very clear, sense of phrasing and singing and all that kind of thing. But it was still a challenge because obviously, I'm working at a certain key. I mean, the key is determined by the music, but there were instances, especially for the girl's voice, Liz Georgievics, who did her voice. She's a great singer, and at times, it was a question of choosing which octave, to go with, particular lines. But otherwise, for the phrasing, for the notation of the phrasing, there was some input from the singers, but pretty much I had it determined myself. Yeah. Thanks, Kai. Dirk, maybe down here.
Do you want any more?
We've just got the mats at the back here. We can do these ones first and then we'll come down.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We've got about 5 more minutes, so that'll be fine.
Yeah.
I know you've been involved in Melbourne film culture for a while, and I feel like a lot of films that come out of Melbourne, they have a certain grungy or angsty quality to them, like films from Dog Milk Productions or Body Melt or Romper Stomper. And then you go to Adelaide and you've made such a nice film with such nice people. Is this what happens when people go to Adelaide?
Yeah, I think so. You walk around the streets of Adelaide and you sort of look at the people, the general population, and you kind of ask yourself, wow, where's the edge? They're really conservative. And I think you've had some experience in Adelaide, Amanda, I think? Perth, yeah. So Adelaide does have a certain quality, as do the Adelaide Hills. And so it was kind of perfect for my film. Initially, I thought I would be shooting something in Melbourne when I was preparing. And I even had a cinematographer in mind, Misha Bakker, who's here somewhere. And unfortunately, that didn't, eventuate. And but yeah, Adelaide, and it makes sense to make a film in the city that you actually live in.
Quick question. Are you going to put the music up on some sort of streaming service? Like, make it like a little musical album that attaches to the film?
Well, I'll tell you what, there's a couple of people in Adelaide, fans of the film, audience members, who've seen the film twice and are keen to see it again, and they're actually keen to create a cult out of the film with sing-along screenings. They've asked me the very same question. Yeah. And I'm not planning any such thing. If with a bit of time, somehow, like, I hear some audience members singing, I don't know what kind of emotions I'm going to feel at that, but I have got a big screening coming up in Adelaide in 2 months, and so let's see what happens.
Hello.
Hi, Dirk.
My question sort of about, there's this sort of a very suburban landscape that I feel in there, which I've always enjoyed about your work, and it's sort of migrated into something else now. But I'm kind of curious too. I mean, this film has been shown outside Australia, isn't it?
It was only shown once outside Australia so far in Cyprus, and it's interesting because
That's what I wanted to ask you, is what was their reaction to the kind of landscape that this happened in?
Very good question. Yeah, I actually read like Adrian Martin's essay on musical mutations. I actually read it again recently, and one of the things he said about a lot of musicals, especially I think more of these kind of indie alternative musicals, is that they don't travel well overseas. And when I screened it in Cyprus, and they were doing like a retrospective of my work, 4 feature films that happened earlier this year, and they just didn't get it. They were trying, I showed them a couple of my Greek films, so obviously, but with this film, they were looking at it and they couldn't understand the landscape. They couldn't understand, wow, what are these houses? This is Europe, of course, and they're used to apartment buildings and something much more grungy than Adelaide suburbia. And
Yeah, well, I would have thought they would have enjoyed that, because it means that everyone expresses themselves through the houses they build, That's what some people have said to me about suburban Australia.
Yeah, I guess so. But if people in another country don't have those houses, it's still a bit foreign to them. But, everyone, cinephiles through the world are used to world cinema and, the different kind of landscapes that exist. So I was a little surprised at that, because they were very, attentive and responsive to my work overall. But to that film, they struggled a bit, although a few people still kind of got it.
I'm afraid we're going to have to cut it short there, but I'm sure Bill will be very happy to talk to you outside. And looking forward to hearing about the Adelaide screening. But look, please, thanks Bill again.
Thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah.